Pirates have long been shown as heroes in popular movie culture, often depicted as swashbuckling adventurers living a life of freedom and excitement on the high seas. However, the reality of the pirate era was far grimmer and more brutal than these portrayals suggest. The Golden Age of piracy, roughly spanning from the late 17th century to the early 18th century, was a time marked by extreme violence, lawlessness, and hardship. The beginning of the pirate era can be traced back to the late 1600s, a time of significant geopolitical upheaval. European nations were expanding their colonial empires, establishing trade routes, and competing for dominance on the seas. This period of exploration and exploitation created numerous opportunities for piracy. Displaced sailors, former privateers, and individuals seeking fortune turned to piracy as a means of livelihood. The promise of wealth and the allure of freedom from oppressive maritime laws drew many to pirate life. Pirates were primarily motivated by profit, and their activities revolved around plundering merchant ships. They targeted vessels carrying valuable cargo such as gold, silver, spices, textiles, and other goods. Pirates used small, fast ships to overtake larger, slower merchant ships. They employed various tactics, including deception, intimidation, and sheer force to capture their prey. Once a ship was seized, pirates would loot the cargo, often leaving the crew either marooned or forced to join their ranks. One of the most notorious pirates of this era was Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard. Blackbeard's fearsome reputation was cultivated through his intimidating appearance and brutal tactics. He often tied slow-burning fuses into his beard and lit them during battle, creating a terrifying image of a demonic figure wreathed in smoke and fire. Blackbeard's flagship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, was a formidable vessel equipped with numerous cannons. He terrorized the Caribbean and the southeastern coast of North America, capturing numerous ships and amassing a substantial fortune. Pirate life was characterized by extreme violence and cruelty. Pirates had little regard for human life, and their methods of dealing with captives were often brutal. Torture and execution were commonplace, used both as a means of extracting information and as a way to instill fear. Pirates devised gruesome punishments for those who defied them, such as keel hauling, where a victim was tied to a rope and dragged under the ship's hull, resulting in severe injury or death. Another infamous practice was marooning, where captives were abandoned on a deserted island with minimal supplies, leaving them to a slow and agonizing death. The social structure aboard pirate ships was surprisingly democratic, a stark contrast to the rigid hierarchies of naval vessels. Pirates operated under a code of conduct known as the Pirate Code, or Articles of Agreement. This code outlined rules for discipline, division of plunder, and compensation for injuries. Decisions were often made collectively, with the captain being elected by the crew and subject to removal if deemed ineffective. However, it was far more true, mostly most powerful person always won it, and others remained slaves no different from the monarchy. The crimes committed by pirates extended beyond simple theft. They engaged in acts of violence, kidnapping, and extortion. Pirate crews would sometimes take hostages, demanding ransom for their release. One notorious example is the case of Stead Bonnet, known as the Gentleman Pirate. Bonnet, a former plantation owner turned pirate, once captured the crew of a sloop off the coast of Carolina and demanded a ransom for their release. Such acts of piracy disrupted trade and caused widespread fear among merchants and sailors. Pirates also played a role in the illegal slave trade, intercepting slave ships and selling their human cargo for profit. They contributed to the perpetuation of the transatlantic slave trade, exacerbating the suffering of countless individuals. The pirate Henry Every, for instance, captured the Ganjai Sawai, a Mughal ship carrying pilgrims and valuable cargo, including a significant number of enslaved people. The brutality with which Every and his crew treated their captives highlighted the inhumanity of piracy. The treatment of women and children by pirates was often horrendous. Women captured by pirates faced the constant threat of sexual violence and exploitation. They were frequently raped, forced into prostitution, or kept as concubines. Pirate ships rarely had women among their crew, but when they did, these women often had to disguise themselves as men to avoid unwanted attention. Anne Bonny and Mary Read are notable examples of women who became infamous pirates, disguising their gender to participate in piracy. Despite their efforts, the overall environment remained dangerous and oppressive for women. Children captured by pirates were typically treated as commodities. They were either ransomed back to their families or sold into slavery. The life of a child aboard a pirate ship was harsh, with little regard for their well-being or future. The cruelty extended to their upbringing, often involving severe discipline and forced labor. Pirates did not limit their brutality to the seas. On land, they frequented brothels and taverns, indulging in debauchery and violence. Port towns like Port Royal in Jamaica became infamous for their lawlessness and vice, attracting pirates who spent their plunder on alcohol, gambling, and women. These settlements became havens for pirates, where they could rest and resupply between voyages. The presence of pirates in these towns led to widespread corruption and a breakdown of social order, as local authorities were often bribed or intimidated into turning a blind eye to their activities. The living conditions aboard pirate ships were harsh and unsanitary. Pirates faced constant threats from disease, malnutrition, and injury. The lack of proper medical care meant that even minor wounds could become life-threatening. Scurvy, a disease caused by vitamin C deficiency, was common among pirates due to their poor diet. Life at sea was physically demanding, with long hours of labor and constant exposure to the elements. Pirates also had to contend with the dangers of naval combat, where injuries and fatalities were frequent. Pirates operated under a system of strict discipline, often enforced through brutal punishments. Infractions such as theft, disobedience, or insubordination could result in flogging, mutilation, or execution. The harsh discipline was necessary to maintain order and cohesion among the crew, given the dangerous and unpredictable nature of their activities. Despite the democratic principles outlined in the Pirate Code, the reality was that the captain and officers held significant power, often ruling through fear and intimidation. The decline of the golden age of piracy can be attributed to several factors. European powers, recognizing the threat pirates posed to their economic interests, intensified their efforts to eradicate piracy. Naval patrols were increased, and anti-piracy laws were enforced more rigorously. One of the most significant efforts was the establishment of the Royal Navy's presence in the Caribbean and the implementation of the Pirate Round, a campaign aimed at capturing and executing pirates. The capture and execution of prominent pirates also played a crucial role in ending the era. Blackbeard, for example, met his end in 1718 when he was killed in a fierce battle with British naval forces off the coast of North Carolina. His death sent a powerful message to other pirates about the consequences of their actions. Similarly, the capture and execution of Stede Bonnet in 1718 further signaled the tightening grip of law enforcement on pirate activities. Economic changes also contributed to the decline of piracy. The Treaty of Utrecht in 1713 marked the end of the War of Spanish Succession and brought relative peace to Europe, reducing the number of privateers who might turn to piracy during wartime. Additionally, the establishment of more secure trade routes and the growth of colonial economies made piracy less lucrative. Merchants began arming their ships and organizing convoys for protection, making it increasingly difficult for pirates to operate successfully. By the mid-18th century, the golden age of piracy had effectively come to an end. The once feared pirates were largely eliminated, and those who survived either retired or were captured and brought to justice. The romanticized image of pirates as daring adventurers persisted in popular culture, but the harsh realities of their existence were often glossed over. The pirate era, in truth, was a time of brutality, lawlessness, and suffering for many, far removed from the glamorous portrayals in movies and literature. In conclusion, while pirates have been immortalized as charismatic and rebellious figures in popular culture, the reality of the pirate era was far more gruesome and harsh. Driven by greed and operating in a world of violence and lawlessness, pirates left a legacy of terror on the high seas. They destroyed many families, robbed and killed thousands of people, and also, they all suffered in harsh conditions as well. If you like watching such dark chapters of history, this channel is the go-to place. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel by clicking the right circle. And if you want to see another such dark chapter of history, check out the left video.